To today's episode of We the Doctors. If you've been watching our show, you realize that most of the time I play peacemaker here. And today's topic is not different, no different from the other ones that we've been talking about. The argument have already started. Today we're talking about a very sensitive topic, and it happens all over the world. But for some reason in Nigeria, it hasn't received enough attention. And what we do here is we really shed light on health information like no other. We create awareness. You're welcome to our show, We the Doctors. My name is Dr. Julz. Okay, today we're talking about child abuse. The one thing I'd like to point out here is a child is anybody that has not attained the age of 18. Okay, so if you're 17, anything that's happening to you is child abuse. And there are several misconceptions that are surrounding today's topic, and we usually start with the misconceptions. So let's dive into today's topic. Let's start with the first one. I'm going to outline them and then we talk about it. The first one I'd like to call out. Children usually make up these stories. Is that true?
I don't want to know.
No.
That's not true, especially when you're talking about certain age groups.
Exactly.
Talking about the very little ones that you have in primary school.
True.
And the ones in secondary school have already started getting older, so they can actually make up stories. They already know, how to tell a good tale.
But there are certain things that a child would say that you have to take seriously.
Yes, for the little ones, especially from ages 7 and below, you want to take whatever they tell you very seriously, because you know when they are saying something that makes sense from when they are saying something that doesn't make sense. The child can't just come and tell you of course. Yes. Can't come and tell you a very concrete story that you obviously have been through or have heard from somewhere before, and you think that, oh, this person is just making up things. Exactly. Children are not that suggestible.
You know, saying this thing, I'm just imagining a mother sitting somewhere and saying, you don't know my child. It's my 6-year-old child. You don't know him. There are some children that are just naturally stubborn. No, they are very good at fabricating stories.
Yeah, but what we are trying to say is,
regardless of the fact that there might be an element of truth in whatever he's saying, but then again, you need to investigate.
Of course.
You need to check thoroughly and be sure that what that child is saying is actually true.
And that's what I'm saying. It depends on the story. Mommy, I took somebody's pen. Do you understand? Or someone stole my... It's different.
It's like...
Exactly. You come to say something...
Uncle touched me.
Thank you. That's where I'm going,
that
actually.
You cannot say a child would
You will just come and tell
you. What we are trying to say here is, whatever the child is telling you at that particular point in time, especially when it relates to... Of course, we'll be talking about the types. There are some that involves touching and some that does not involve touching. You want to take it seriously and be open-minded. Never judge, okay? Just be open, listen, and don't be judgmental. That's the most important thing. So that's what we are saying. Kids might make up stories and all that, but the last thing you want a child to perceive is that you do not believe in them. Because next time, they will not come and open up to you. So that's what we are saying. So the second point is, it is only abuse if it is violence. Child abuse is only abuse if it is violent. Yes.
I don't think so.
You're right.
You have all sorts of abuse.
Exactly.
Later on, when we begin to talk about it, you have mental abuse, you have even neglect as an abuse.
Emotional abuse.
Emotional abuse.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be violence. You don't have to beat a child before you say you abuse the child. In fact, if you take a child out of school and not let the child go to school, that's an abuse. You've not touched this child, but the child is being abused.
Yes, especially their rights. And then another one we have here, child abuse only happens in some part of the society. That is not true. It can occur anywhere and everywhere.
So it's a general thing. You find it in a lot of places and all of that.
Exactly.
And then when we'll be talking about the different forms, we realize which one we're talking about. I mean, which one fits in for the child.
Exactly.
Not every child abuse is a bit physical. But the other one that we should have mentioned earlier is also the fact that a lot of people tend to assume that every form of physical abuse is carried out by the fathers.
No, I don't think
so.
Of course. I really don't think so. This is not because I'm a father. I also like to defend women.
Yes.
But the issue here is, no, I'm nothing for girl power. I'm just trying to defend women because they should be defended. But the issue here lies that it's not just men that abuse children. There are different types of abuse. Exactly. Imagine a woman doesn't feed a child. That's abuse. if the father doesn't provide for the child, that's a man abusing the child.
How is a woman not feeding a child abuse?
Because you have to understand that
that's
in
the basic
kids,
need of the child.
Culturally, you have to
have education.
You have the right to
things.
discipline children these days.
Yes, you do have the right.
So by the time that child will not eat your 2 o'clock food,
no, there's a difference.
See, we should try to make the distinction between discipline and child abuse.
As I'm talking to you. Yes.
There's something I have to explain in raising children. For example, I'm going to talk in family circles.
Yes.
The fact, in our society, we say she has come of age to be a mother.
Yes.
Or he has come of age to be a father.
Yeah.
Coming of age is not 18 of I'm 21, so it's time to have a wife and time to have a child.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes there's a knowledge necessary to raise children. When you don't have it, even from the start, you're already abusing these kids.
No, I'm not getting that. I'm beginning to take that part.
Wait, some people actually are abusing these kids that they don't even know.
Exactly. They think it's discipline.
What I'm trying to say now is that we need to draw a line. Let us know which one is discipline. Let us know which one is child abuse.
Okay, thank God people are watching this show. There's something called positive reinforcement.
Thank you.
So that is what we are going to emphasize on, because from our culture, or our environment, discipline is perceived as being tough on the child, being violent, and those things can have negative adverse effects on that child.
And can also have positive adverse effects, depending on whichever method.
It makes me query your upbringing, okay? So let's go.
Fantastic one, man. Fantastic one, and that's why we're here.
I think what we should, let's let people watching the show begin to tweet right now at We the Doctors. Tell us what you think child abuse is. Tell us instances. Don't just say child abuse is when you beat a child.
And what your idea of discipline is. So the last one that we're going to talk about, so talking about the misconceptions of child abuse. We have children are usually sexually abused by strangers.
That's totally false. I disagree with that, because I think even most cases, in terms of sexual abuse, starts from even the uncles, and the aunties,
people at home,
family members at home, that they come around and they play and they start, seeing your little girl child and start saying, my wife at this small age, and start come and sit on my laps and start doing some stupid things you didn't want to talk about. That's a very annoying thing. I really
very
taking advantage of the children, especially the girls, because they are comfortable with these people.
Even boys, male children too. Telling them to come and carry what is not.
No, they are not the strangers.
Yeah, so most times they are family members. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. The nannies and the male children.
We're not saying that strangers don't do those things. Yes. You can have a neighbor around in the house or a neighbor's friend that just came around and they make passes and all of that. But most times, starts with people that are even at home. You need to be careful with them. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the effects of child abuse and the different forms of child abuse. We the doctors will be right back.
Coming up next.
Talking about child abuse. Child abuse can actually occur anywhere, from the home to schools, anywhere around the community at all. Child abuse happens. There are 4 main types of child abuse, which is what we're going to be discussing in this particular segment. Hello, you're welcome back. It's We the Doctors. I'm Dr. Yvoone. We've been talking about child abuse. Child abuse can actually occur anywhere, from the home to schools, anywhere around the community at all. Child abuse happens. There are 4 main types of child abuse, which is what we're going to be discussing in this particular segment. The first one is neglect, the second one is physical abuse, the third one is sexual abuse, and the fourth is emotional. So let's start with neglect.
Yes. Neglect. I would like to even qualify that. Purposeful neglect of a child and abandonment. This can also be seen in traditional settings when they abandon the handicapped child or a child that is having, some form of genetic abnormalities. They do it a lot. But that is in, let us say, the rural settings. In the urbanized areas, we have things like, there are certain things that you can provide for the child, that the education, the safety of that child. We have a situation where, okay, for instance, is a single parent, and then you leave the child all alone in the house. You go for your night duty or whatever. That is also a form of neglect. So we have to look into the several layers of abuse in itself.
Talking about neglect, I mean, especially those who have special children who require special attention, and then leave those children and don't want to come around them and stuff like that. I think I want to believe that most of it is done as a result of ignorance.
True.
They don't know the required thing they're supposed to do to that child and all of that. And I think we need to sensitize our people. When you have this children, look around, try and seek for help. You know, let people guide you on what to do, how to cater for them, how to care for them, because you don't even know what that child can turn out to be.
Exactly.
And I want to talk to some people, especially because they feel that they provide house food for the child, so what is he neglecting the child? When you don't show love and care to your child.
So now you're talking about emotional abuse?
No.
Neglect still.
Neglect still. Yes, you don't show love. Some children, you see it's cold, the weather is very cold, you see other children wearing cardigan to school. You see them coming like that. Meanwhile, their parents drop them. No, little things like that matter.
Yes,
but we take all these things for granted.
Do we say that the parents are nonchalant?
That's why I say sometimes they don't even know that they are abusing
they probably don't even know it's a neglect to them.
I feel some people...
What if they don't even have the resources?
I feel some people could be mothers and fathers because they've had children, but they can't be parents.
Exactly.
Simply because they don't understand what it takes to
That's why we added that word, purposeful. So that it has to be an intentional neglect.
Sometimes they don't know they're neglecting a child. But in this case, purposeful neglect is you keep the child away from care. It's actually purposeful neglect. One other thing that comes up is physical abuse. It's common in the environment. Sometimes in the hospital, I see patients, and I'm going to use what I'm familiar with, and I write NAI. When I write NAI, often I'm going to reveal that secret. Parents wonder what NAI is. It's war against indiscipline or something like that. Most times, for me, it means non-accidental injury. This is injury that is purposefully inflicted on a child. I've seen all sorts of stories. In one instance, actually from the parent thought he was helping the child. This child was, little boy, was sucking on the fingers. You know, when they suck early in the days, we say we don't want you to put your hand in your mouth, and children love to do that. So for these parents, taking care of that was tying this hand to the hip of the child. So that particular child couldn't move that hand. Now, the challenge we had was not something physiotherapy had to take care of. Because you tie the hand, normally you would think, the child can use his hand.
The hand there for...
The problem was, it was tight.
Oh, God.
So, by the time the child came, this place was darkened.
No.
It was gangrenous. You know when you do that, you leave the child. So it wasn't an issue of physiotherapy contracture. It was an issue of
this child might lose the limb.
We
amputated the child.
I referred to a pediatric orthopedic surgeon. I got the feedback that the decision was to amputate.
Wow.
I don't want to go to the rest of the story. So
but, ignorance, just like Dr. Waleria said.
So, in this case, you're trying to take care of the child, but that's clearly physical abuse. Then lots of stories of beating children, flogging, pouring hot water, putting pepper in the eyes. What do you do that for? That's not raising a child.
Using razor to cut the child and putting pepper in it and all of that.
We don't realize that these things are not just abuse like abuse at home. They're criminal.
Exactly.
Your child or not your child, these are criminal things, and
there's also the case of shaking baby syndrome.
Yes.
People will pick up a baby and keep quiet.
Because the child is crying.
Exactly.
You shake and then you whiplash on the head.
On the neck of the child.
Oh my God.
It's terrible.
There is also the sexual form of abuse, which is really, really saddening. You know, there was a case recently of a man who was about 75 years old, and then he was his granddaughter. And then he, messed her up and all of that. And by the time the mother had got back, she realized that the girl was in pool of blood and all of that.
Wow.
And then by the time they interviewed the girl, they said that he had been doing it for a while. And then he would tell her, don't tell anybody, maybe give her 20 naira to go buy sweet or buy, stuff like that, basically.
Okay.
Now, you want to be sure of who you are leaving your child with to take care of.
True.
And you really want to educate your children, either male or female. Say, look, if uncle or auntie touches you here, tries to touch you at all, report to me. If they tell you to do things that are not, sensible, let me know. Tell your, tell your mom, tell your dad about it. Tell me, tell your auntie about it and all of that. You need to get these children, aware about these things and all of that. If you don't inform them, if you don't sensitize them, then they're likely to mess up and stuff like that.
And at the same time, too, a problem comes when the abusers are the parents of these children. So what happens?
Exactly.
That's deep.
That's
really
sad.
That is really, really sad. I think it goes, the third party comes into play, especially in the schools. You have to emphasize it's not enough to do biology and say this is the reproductive organ, this and that. You have
the children should be informed by the teachers as well.
As to be able to talk to the teachers in the kindergarten, you have to talk about, as a parent, I always tell my girls, this is your special area. Nobody but yourself. Mommy is going to take care of you. Nobody should go to that area for any reason. If anybody's just to touch you there, let me know.
Right. Yeah, so we've taken so much on kinds of child abuse that can actually happen. So we want to ask people on the street what they understand by child abuse, because people just have this, as in surface interpretation of what child abuse is, even up to child trafficking, child labor. These little things are child abuse, but we take for granted. So let's hear what people have to say from the streets, and we'll be right back with Dr. Waleria. Stay tuned.
What I understand by child abuse is that due to the situation of our environment, or maybe our locality, our nation, the way, even the Bible said, they say, train a child the way to go, and when they grow, they will not depart from me. The way the parent bought their child, or it matters a lot. So, I mean, child abuse begin, from home, from the parent need to discipline their child and train them the way of the law, and when they grow, they will not depart from me.
I feel child abuse is just simply depriving children of their normal human rights when they're supposed to be in school to receive education and stuff, and then they are there hawking and not receiving their education and suffering for no important cause.
I don't understand about child abuse simply means molestation. When children are not allowed to exercise their privileges, their rights. When we look at some ladies, do you understand? When they are being molested, people that have not come of age, and they are found wanting in things like sexual molestation and the rest of them. Those are the simple things I understand about child abuse.
And child abuse means to me child molestation. When you molest a child, it's a child abuse, to my understanding.
Child abuse, to my understanding, is when you handle your child in an improper manner, maybe through kind of using some objects, that could inflict injury on them, in beating them when you are angry, or just taking advantage of a child unnecessarily.
So how do you know a child? Child abuse is a treatment of your children or house girl or anybody that's very junior to you. Child abuse starts from home, starts from everywhere. Whether even you are working in the office, any cleaner, anything that you just employed, child abuse. When you treat, once you are treating people that are very small to you.
Hi, you're welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is We the Doctors. We have been talking about child abuse, and it's been quite, emotional. And then again, it's been a bit interesting and exposing in the time that a lot of things that we didn't know about child abuse that we've started to figure out happening and all of that. And it's quite enlightening. And then with us today, we have a guest in the person of Dr. Damilola Akinsulere. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. She's a public health physician, and then she's representing Action Health International. Action Health International is a non-governmental organization that is into child abuse, adolescents, as well as some young adults, basically. So, Dr. Akinsulere, I think I'll just be more comfortable just saying doctor. So
I'll just say Dr. Damilola.
All right. In your practice, basically, how many cases or how bad is this child abuse thing in our society?
Well, child abuse is usually underreported. Most people, because of the fear of victimization and stigma, they don't want to come to the hospital to report cases. But if I'm going to talk about the child abuse generally, worldwide, about 40 million children are exposed.
40 million children?
40 million children worldwide are exposed to child abuse every year. So it is really, really bad. But for us to understand child abuse, I need to tell you the different types of abuse and tell you the statistics of this different. So first, I need to quickly define what child abuse is. is a form of maltreatment, and it constitutes all forms of physical, emotional ill treatment, sexual abuse. What I'm just trying to say is that you don't say a child is abused because she's only sexually abused. If you physically abuse a child, that child has also been abused. If you neglect a child, that child is abused.
Talking about that quickly, which one is more common in our environment? Me, I would expect physical will be more common.
Oh, yes, but we need to differentiate what physical abuse is from corporal punishment.
Corporal punishment.
You know,
that's
corporal,
a new word.
Yes, but that's different.
I wish Dr. Yvoone was here. You know, the other time we're arguing about this thing. It's corporal punishment.
Yes.
It's not
in this
physical
part
abuse,
of
you know?
the world, we believe we should discipline our children.
Yes.
Okay? But then, if corporal punishment is too severe, it will lead to physical abuse. So we need to be careful.
Then we also need to know what this severity is and then know how to set the boundary.
There's a thin line.
Yes.
So you flog a child in school, 6 strokes, it's corporal punishment. But the moment the strokes give injuries, it's child abuse.
And scars.
And those are the signs we find.
And you see, in the definition of child abuse, whatever you do, if it's going to affect the dignity of the child, the development of the child, or the health of the child, then it's abuse. So if I'm correcting my child and it's affecting the development, the dignity, and the health, then I'm abusing him or her.
Yeah, it's really been great having you around, talking about child abuse and shedding more light about this, you know, extremely disastrous issue, so to say, in our environment. Thank you so much for coming around. We really appreciate you, Dr. Waleria. We hope that any other time we have issues related to such or whatever one that's related to your specialty, you'll be available to come around.
Definitely.
All right, that has been our interview segment. Please do not touch the dial. We'll be coming back. And my humble self, Dr. Waleria, will be giving you tips on what to do when you have a child that is abused. Don't go anywhere. Thank you. You're welcome back to With the Doctors. If you're just joining us, we have been talking about child abuse. It's been really, emotional and really sad listening to some of those things that people go through, some of these things that we do to our children, knowingly or unknowingly, all right, in forms of child abuse. And in this segment, we're going to be telling you how to identify, a child that has been abused, right? And the right things that you're supposed to do once you realize that this child has been abused, the ways that you can, discover and identify an abused child.
I think one of the first things to look out for is when a child presents or comes with an injury, it doesn't have to be in the hospital, even on the street. You find an injury on the child, you're trying to find out, how did you get this injury? Did you fall down? The child says no. Let's say it's a burn. You said, you poured hot water on yourself while you were trying to carry water. The child says no. Keeps telling you no to all the accidents that could happen to cause the injury. You begin to think this is a non-accidental injury, meaning this is an injury that was inflicted on the child by someone. That's purely child abuse.
It reminds me of one experience I had when I was a little boy in primary school. And I think I got back home that day and then I had this mark on my body. I was flogged in school for something, very silly. And I think I was flogged in the wrong place. And as soon as I got home that evening, my mom said, what happened to you here? I told her the story. My mom actually is very, very, she's a disciplinarian. I mean, I was surprised that she could complain about someone touching me in the wrong place and all of that. And then the next morning she was in the school and all hell broke loose. And then, they had to beg and apologize. And that was the end of it.
And that's the right thing for her.
At that point in time. Because she needed to educate them that, look, when you're, trying to discipline a child or flog a child, you do it in the right places. Right. You don't hit a child in the wrong spot and they expect that, that child would.
Yeah. Well, there are other techniques to get that behavioral modification. There are other skills, positive reinforcements that you can use on the child. But before we go into that, we're talking about the signs, okay, that you identify in a child that could be signs of child abuse. Social isolation, okay, withdraw. If a child likes watching television or playing a particular kind of game,
all
of a sudden the child is now withdrawn, doesn't want to go out. Maybe you give the child, you've noticed that, okay, his mood has changed. Okay, let me serve him his favorite food or whatever. Child doesn't want to eat. There's a problem. You want to monitor the attitude, the mannerisms of your child. Once there is a change, investigate and probe.
Find out early enough.
And sometimes you don't even be able to do the investigation yourself. People have to understand that children can be depressed.
Right.
You tell a parent that and he's asking, what's he thinking about? What's depressing?
Is he making money in the house?
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Children are human beings that must be taken care of well.
True.
Wholly. Take care of their emotions. So if they are withdrawing, why are they withdrawing?
Exactly. And
maybe
again,
something you are doing as a
about
parent.
this withdrawal, people will be thinking, okay, it's just the parents. It's not just, it doesn't lie just in the hands of the parents. Even the teachers in school
bullies
as well.
in school.
Even the teachers in school should try to take notes.
Of that
as in the way the children in your classroom behave on a good day. You notice when changes occur. So this is both parents and teachers, because depending on where the abuse is coming from, if it's coming from the home, the teachers in school can catch it. If it's coming from school, those at home. It's like that.
Because the teacher and parent relationship is like a partnership thing.
Exactly.
PTA meetings shouldn't be for the contribution of
PTA is like,
and then you realize that most times, for these days, some parents don't even have the time. So the real people that they spend time with, most times is in the school and with the teachers. So that's why you also have on the report card, the teachers write that, oh, I noticed that he's always playful, or I noticed that he's a bit withdrawn. I noticed that, that's no teachers tend to pick those things.
They've gone ahead to even have daily reports of that child, which is absolutely fantastic.
Great. And then talking about schools and all of that, one of the other things you may notice from the child is that the child may just start to have a poor academic performance. You realize that the child that used to be the first or second in class, all of a sudden start getting 25, becoming 26.
So sudden change.
Sudden change. Then you realize that maybe that child is usually abused at home, maybe that child is going through some form of depression, he's not doing very well. And then you also realize that the child probably just has a general loss of interest.
Okay, that has been our show for today, child abuse. My goodness, it has been quite deep, very interesting. And of course, like we mentioned earlier, if you need help, you always talk with your doctor. If it has gotten as bad as you need to speak to a psychologist or whatever, of course, your doctor will be a best point of call for you to involve the social worker and all that. Okay, if you have questions or suggestions, you want to follow us on Twitter, Instagram is @WeTheDoctors. And of course, you want to go to our website, it's cooltv.cool. For myself, Dr. Julz, Dr. Waleria, Dr. Yvoone and Dr. Okey, we're saying bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay healthy.